All right, here we are. Here we are.
Here we are.
Here
we do, and here we
episode,
have.
and another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Yay!
As soon as I can get my foot out of my mouth, we'll start this here podcast.
That's okay. Those will put in the other hole.
There you go. We're on episode number 311. That's 311.
Mm-hmm.
And not to be confused with 411.
Or 911.
311, yeah. All right. So today's episode name is creative real estate scary or actually dangerous?
That's our choice, is scary or dangerous?
That's right. So here's the description.
Buckle up.
Seems so many first-time creative real estate entrepreneurs find themselves contemplating leaving safety of what they think they know to be safe and what they think they know as unsafe. For some, that gap can look like a canyon, or worse, a deep or seemingly bottomless chasm that will suck their hard-earned money, or, if one minor mistake is made, have a life's sentence to this one deal screw up. Which means crossing that chasm looks like the scariest or most dangerous thing anyone can do. What if you could learn in the next 60 minutes the difference between scary and dangerous in creative real estate, and how you could deal with each of them so you start raking in some dough like so many of those stories you have heard just before dropping tons of coin to learn these creative type deals from those other gurus.
This weekend only.
Today, we are going to help you get even with those past painful experiences without walking off a cliff. Ta-da!
Hey, it's a good idea not walking off a cliff. My friend tried that once. It didn't work out so hot. Yeah.
Is he still an alive friend or is he a dead friend?
Oh, no, he's an alive friend, but
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There was no music school after that.
All right. So housekeeping.
Yeah.
So please make sure that you subscribe to our channel wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Make sure you give us a review. Make sure you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com and hit the support button if you have any questions, top right-hand corner. Also, I put a link in the chat every single week. There's a different link. And this week, I have a new book that I wrote, and it's in there. But I will explain that at the end of the podcast because the podcast needs to explain the book. So there you go.
You're always full surprise. I know you have books.
Yeah.
But you're releasing one, and he didn't even tell me.
Yeah.
He's like
it's not a big deal. It's just an ebook. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal at all.
Well, it's more books than I have one. It's more, three. It's more books than a lot of people have.
Okay.
That's cool.
Well, I definitely know how to utilize my time. Now, whether I monetize it all the time, I don't know. But I definitely know how to make my time seem worthwhile to me anyways. All right. So here's the start of the podcast. Why is it that so many of us are so bad at differentiating between things that terrify us and things that present real hazard? Like the difference between scary and dangerous.
Yeah. Like real or imagined?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are scared of flying, but have no trouble zipping down the highway in our cars at 80 miles an hour, even though statistics have shown you are 86 times more likely to die in a car accident than a plane crash.
Yeah, it's true. 80. I didn't know it was 86. 86?
Yeah.
Oh, it's more than you. Well, planes are getting safer. You hardly hear any of them crashing anymore. Used to crash.
Oh, don't curse them like that.
No, seriously. Used to every year, another plane. They're doing better, whatever they're doing.
Yeah. They're too busy talking about politics these days. They don't pay attention to things.
They don't need a plane crash. Okay, good.
We're afraid of letting our children go into the ocean on a summer beach day because of sharks, but we demand they take baths on a regular basis. Even though bathtubs claim 1 American life every day.
From sharks?
No. Even though bathtubs claim 1 American life every day, and sharks claim only one per year on average.
Wow. Boy, we're stupid, huh?
Bathtubs should be 365 times as frightening as sharks, but it's the reverse.
Man, we're not too smart, maybe.
We don't have a History Channel that's showing Bathtub Week, do we? But we have a History Channel we have a History Channel that shows Shark Week, though, right? And it's a whole series. It used to just be one day. Now it's a whole week.
Oh God. We have to have our own channel, like the dangers of bat. Nobody would listen.
The point.
Yeah. Whew.
How many car rides have you taken this year? How many flights or how many baths or showers have you taken in your life? Which brings me to my first point today. Things like shark encounters is so minuscule in comparison that their rarity turns them into mysteries. I'm going to give that to you again. I got to read my own writing. So things like shark encounters is so minuscule in comparison that their rarity turns them into mysteries, which then turns uncertainty within ourselves.
So it's the mystery.
So it's the rarity. It's not normal.
Yeah, but the rarity makes the mystery.
Exactly.
That's what scares people.
Exactly. And most of us don't do well with uncertainty or what we are not familiar with. And then we refuse to step even 1 foot into the water because there might be a shark. See, the reason for this is fairly simple. We're more relaxed around things. We make things we're more acquainted with. Right? So we're more relaxed around things that we're more acquainted with. So
yeah, that makes sense. If we went swimming every day, we only took a bath once a year,
right,
we'd be afraid of baths. I get it.
So on a little rant here, I'll put my notes down and I'll do my Bill rant.
Shoot straight, Bill.
Yeah. September of 1949, a gentleman, which I don't remember his name off the top of my head, wrote this thing called a Code of Ethics for Realtors. The reason why he wrote a Code of Ethics for Realtors is because since 1908, when the word first came up, or 1911, I don't remember which one it is, when the first word came up as a profession, they were considered charlatans. Charlatan is a snake oil salesperson, right?
Yeah.
They would like
con man.
Yeah, con man, right? They'd sell you water and tell you it was some holy water or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So they had a bad reputation. So this person that wrote this Code of Ethics was trying to fix the realtor scene. That was September of 1949. In October of 1949, they created the National Realtors Association. Okay?
Yeah.
That association was formed to implement the Code of Ethics. To this day, that's what they do. They police the Code of Ethics. That's their purpose. The National Realtor Association, that's their purpose.
Yep.
They only educate based on those rules. So when you go to realtor school, they teach you about how to keep the deposit, how to write a purchase and sales contract. They teach you about all the things that are legally bound to the association.
Mm-hmm.
They do not teach you. Now I'm talking about the Realtor Association. I'm not talking about realtors themselves. I'm not talking about like the big realtor companies, like
Yeah.
Hathaway and I don't know some of the other ones. I don't even know
Yeah.
Remax. I'm not talking about those guys.
Right.
I'm talking about the Realtor Association. They do not teach you how to negotiate. They do not teach you how to deal with the clients. They don't teach you how to find clients. They don't teach you marketing. They don't teach you any of that stuff.
How to handle the inspections.
Right. Now, in the early 50s, the way the realtors actually developed was there was a guy in town, literally a guy in town, that knew that, that this couple was selling and that couple was selling and this couple wanted to buy and that couple wanted to buy, and he would matchmake. And that's how he made his money. Now, what would happen, according to my own observation, I don't think it's anywhere written where I can show it to you, but according to my own observation, because of my business, you have booms and depressions.
Yeah.
You do really well, you do really bad. Like in the middle, now think about this. Now we're 1950, so things were much different than they are now. I mean, now we're 2022. We're 72 years later.
Yeah.
Okay, but in the 50s, when it snowed 2 feet or 3 feet. You didn't have a snowplow that was you didn't get out in a couple hours like we do now, right? So people shoveled back then. The cars were rear wheel drive; they weren't front wheel drive. And four wheel drives were around, but they weren't in every soccer mom's vehicle.
No, that wasn't usual. No.
So things were different back then. So in January and February, when it was snowing, how many houses did he sell? So that's where the spring market came from, because everybody would want to get into the spring market because they kind of went through the winter and they were done and they were going to sell a house. Not to mention that the spring market brings upon the summer market, which is where people want to move and they want to be in the new house before the kids go back to school in September.
That's right. Okay?
So thus we would have booms and depressions. So what would happen is a realtor would take a deposit, we'll say $1,000 or $500 or whatever they took, and they would hold the deposit. Except guess what? They didn't have any money.
No.
So how do you think they paid their mortgage or their rent or the grocery bill?
I'll just use my deposit because I will sell the house. It's
guaranteed. I will. That's right. They think
guaranteed.
The house is sold. It's guaranteed.
It's sold. I can see it right now.
And then the closing comes, or the closing falls apart, and they need to give the money back, and it's not there. Thus becomes the issue of ethics. Now, realtors are not going to tell you this because it's their past, it's their skeletons in their closet, and most of them don't even know what that is. So why am I bringing that up? Because what I just said. The reason for this is fairly simple. We are more relaxed around things we're more acquainted with. So when it comes to selling a house now, the thing that the realtor did, whether it was orchestrated or not, was they made themselves very familiar. To the point where a person that sells a house now thinks, and I'm going to talk about this in about 2 seconds. This was not part of my script, but I just want to talk about this.
Yeah.
What happens is the only place you knew how to sell a house was either with a realtor or on your own. And the biggest failure, most people don't know, was, by the way, 88.7% of FSBOs go to a realtor. That's according to the realtors, of course. That number has since changed, right? And the reason why is because when the internet first came out in the 90s, the realtors were clever and they got this thing called the multiple listing service, which meant that all the realtor needed to do was to put their house or their listing on this software, and it would go to all the other realtors. So that now when you sell a house, you have two realtors. You have the buying realtor and the selling realtor, and they would split their commissions, right? So the point that I'm making here is it became streamlined. So what happens is that, back in the day when the internet was hot, and it was all new and it's, all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, think about this. In 1920, what were cars like?
Yeah, not much.
They were new, but we thought who we were because look at this innovation we had. Look at these new cars. Look how far we've come from the horse and carriage, right? And yet, look, it's 100 years later, and look what cars have done.
It's a lot.
Well, I beg you to take a look at that same scenario with the internet. We think we're so hot and look at this technology we have. We walk around with phones in our pockets and look how cool we are because we have this new technology. Look how far we've come since we've had the internet.
That's right.
We have no idea what's in front of us.
Mm.
It's actually archaic to some degree because by the time we get to 2050, what's it going to look like then?
Mm.
Right?
Really can't imagine. This is so amazing and simple. It does so many things. You can't imagine.
So exactly to that point, what happened in 2020 when the pandemic hit?
Mm.
People were stuck at home, and the only communication they could have because of and I'm going to say the suppressive government. I mean, I understand that the COVID was there, but I don't think COVID was an accident. Somebody induced it into America somehow, some way, and I believe it was 100% believe it was for political reasons. But that's here nor there. Okay, it is cyclical. I mean, in 1918 we had a pandemic and we had a lot of deaths, but it wasn't run the way we ran it this time. Mm-hmm. But in any event, there's things like Zoom, for example. Look how big Zoom became.
Man, we should take the stock out on that one.
Should have, right?
Yeah, should have, would have, did have.
So the point is that nowadays, because of the pandemic and because of this strangest period of time in real estate, in other words, with the internet and the pandemic and this boom that we have, this bubble because of scarcity, right? It's actually a lie. It's actually one big fat lie.
What part of it?
Well, there was not a scarcity of real estate.
Mm.
What's happening is the universe is shifting because what happened was because you could go to your mailbox and have 20 buyers there with checks in hand. People were like, what do I got to hire a realtor for and pay 5 or 6%? Because what do they really do anyways? Because most realtors are not trained.
Yeah.
One out of 20 or 1 out of 30 will have done more than 20 or 30 deals a year. Those are the ones you should be looking for. You want to hire a realtor, the best thing in the world that you could do is ask them how many houses did you close on the last 12 months? Mm-hmm. And if it's less than 20, run like hell because they're not good. Yeah. They're not trained. They're not seasoned. Right? So what happened was all of a sudden, and I know this because my attorney, I interrogated my attorney, and he's just one guy, and I understand that. But he's closing in the last 6 months, he's closing up to as much as 40% of his deals without realtors.
Really?
40%. That's people to people.
Yeah.
35 to 40%. That's no realtor involved.
Of course, the realtors don't quite see that, do they? They don't see that happening. It's not part of their network. So
what's happening is the realtors making up this story like, oh, well, because, for the last 40 years, the country's been, the population growth has been more than the building industry. And they come up with this whole excuse about there's a shortage of houses, when really what it is they're being antiquated and they don't even know it, right? They're not making adjustments because there's people like you and I that do a lot of real estate without any realtor. Mm-hmm. I mean, I sell with my guy, but I give him probably 1 out of 5 properties, if that. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just talked to him yesterday. I just gave him another property sell because I don't want to deal with it because I have a tenant in there and the house is kind of yucky and I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to get the tenant out. I want to sell it with the tenant in it and I just want it to go. So it's worth it for me to give him 5% to deal with the bullshit because I own the house free and clear and I know I'm going to make a shit ton of money on it. So it's like, to hell with it. I mean, I'm going to double my money from when I bought it. I've had the house for 15 years. Mm-hmm. I'm going to double my money. Actually, more than 15 years, probably 17 or 18 years. Same tenant's been in all those years.
Yeah.
That house is a mess, right? Mm-hmm. So my point is that they have their place, but it's 1 out of 5. It's for me, it's less than 20%.
Well, when I look back at it, and I'm no expert. I listen to you and I see what I see, but I see what I see. And one of the things that I noticed is that the writing was probably on the wall and nobody noticed it as soon as they started listing everything on the MLS and just showing it there.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Because if you can do that, people can do that too. And you start making yourself unnecessary.
Right. So there are sites like Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin,
sure.
Twilio. All these sites are like, I mean, look at us. There's a site called PropStream, which is the MLS for realtors. I mean, MLS for investors. It's got everything the MLS could have on it, except accept listings, and I think PropStream should do that. Right. Now there's another company that's on the heels of them called Privy. They're trying to compete with them. But these are $100 a month subscriptions that give you we get all our comps on there. We get all our research on there. We get leads from there. We get expired listings. We get FSBOs. And for anybody that's listening, might say, well, they lost their MLS status. Well, I just heard last week that they got it back. So there you go. Yeah. So anyways, all my point is that the reason for this is fairly simple. We're more relaxed around things we're more acquainted with. So now what happens is the pandemic comes along in 2020, March of 2020, and FSBOs dry up. Realtors can't show houses. The whole world dries up. But people like myself and you don't stop. So what happens is we used a list for 21 years called out of area owner list. What that means is that the tax bill is mailed to a different address than the property address. It could be across the street. It could be in another state, right?
Yeah.
So we always use that list for 21 years. That's how you and I have made our money, right? Except now it becomes the only way. Off-market leads are the only way to find leads for 2 years. So now what's happened is because of that, which I was, I'm still like I just told you before this call, I just lost the deal. On Saturday, I made a deal with the guy, and on Sunday, I got a cash offer, and I was out. Right?
Yep.
And I'm paying him $30-something thousand more than the cash offer's given him.
Yeah.
Plus, that's not taking away his 10 or 15% worth of leads. So I'm paying him 40 or 45% more than what he's going to get, and he still went with cash because people go with what they're acquainted with or what they're accustomed with. Right? So here's my finality on my rant. Because of the pandemic and because of all this electronic stuff and because of this short of a houses and every Tom, Dick, and Harry calling people about wanting to do lease options and wanting to do subject to deals and wanting to do owner financing, it's become mainstream now. It's not acquainted with. So what's happened in the early 2020s is more and more we get on the phone with people and we hear, oh yeah, I know what that is. Oh yeah, I know what that is. Oh yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah.
So when I say in my emails, now is the time, it's because evolution itself has made monthly payments until we can pay you off in different variations of like lease options and slot deals and owner finance and subject to deals much more acquainted. So much so that I have run into myself in the last 6 months, 3 attorneys that specialize, not in Connecticut, but 3 attorneys that specialize in subject to. Subject to was voodoo for a lot of gurus, but now what do they say? Because now attorneys actually do subject to deals because they recognize that the government allows it because it's right on the HUD, that the national government HUD statement says subject to funds.
Yep, it's right on the list.
So this is important, and I'm saying this early in the podcast so I can finish the podcast, that if you're unfamiliar with creative real estate, that's the reason why you're hesitant. And you think there's this abyss of knowledge that you need when it's not true. Right? To start, all you need to do is one lease option. That's it. I started with one subject to deal, and look where I am now. Right? You just start with one deal. So let's move on. So how can we reckon with this gap in familiarity between what we already know and are doing to make money over this unfamiliar territory of making money with some solid guarantees that creative real estate can do what is so often promised? In other words, how do you make the leap from your job to creative real estate? Right? Or whatever you do for, your business or whatever, right? And that's what I want to talk about.
All right.
First thing and most important, don't quit or cut off your income that's in place now. Just don't do it.
Well, you don't do that even if you want to get another job. You don't quit your job and then go looking. You go look and then quit. Even that, you never do that.
Some people do, but that's because they have savings and they can do whatever and they're fed up. And the
Mhm.
only reason why somebody would quit their job abruptly like that is because they have transgressions and they're afraid they're going to get caught. So
Yeah.
they're leaping ship so they don't get caught because they've been stealing or they've been carping about the boss or they're a rumor monger or there's infighting or there's all different things that they do. But
Hmm.
other than that, if you're a normal person, yes, you plan, get the other job, and then leave this one. Right.
Yeah.
My second point is don't let your real estate activities ramrod or cut across your current income lines. So don't quit your job and don't let your real estate cut across your attention units on your job or what makes you money now.
Mhm.
Right? Here's what I mean. You have to run a parallel line to what you have until the real estate proves itself. So if you have a job and you're doing this already, then you just run a parallel line to it. In other words, well, I'm going to explain it. So watch this. We all know this, but I'm gonna put it in your face right now.
Hmm.
We all have 168 hours a week.
Right.
24 times 7 is 168. If we use 40 hours a week for our current income, like for a job or working,
Hmm.
we use about 56 hours a week sleeping, which is 8 hours a night. I don't know a lot of people that sleep 8 hours a night, but some people do. And 42 hours a week eating, commuting, family time, church, etc. 42 hours a week is a long time to spend with family. That's a long time to spend at church. That's a long time to spend in a grocery store. That's a long time for commuting.
Hmm.
So 42 hours is being very generous.
Yeah, that should work.
That leaves 30 hours a week of time to pursue your creative real estate wealth dreams without feeling like anything else in your life is being disrupted.
Except some Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's my point. What's more dangerous? Not planning your time or doing what you're doing? This is like the bathtub,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
So that the real reason that you're afraid of or you think creative real estate is dangerous is because you're not familiar with it.
Hmm.
And you'll flounder around and talk about how dangerous it is or your protest against it or well, I haven't made a deal in 8 years because I've been studying, right?
So this might be one of the reasons people keep studying, so they become less afraid somehow.
Yeah.
If I keep studying, then I won't be afraid. Well, life doesn't work like that. You have to take a jump sometimes. No one says. I've been seeing this lately. Life isn't about getting to the point where you're not afraid anymore. It's just do it, and then you won't be afraid after you do it. Just do it.
We talked about, I think, 2 or 3 podcasts ago, the difference, which, by the way, I can't believe they were the lowest downloaded podcast I ever had. That we've had in years. The difference between an amateur and a pro.
Really?
They were the lowest. I thought they were. I mean, obviously, I wrote them, but I can't believe that people don't care the difference between being amateur and pro. Because it was the lowest downloads I've had in years. It actually killed my month last night. My downloads were down by thousands because of those 2 podcasts.
Hmm.
But in any event, one of the things we talked about the difference between the amateur and the pro is the pro recognizes that fear is always there and he has to confront it.
Yeah.
Where an amateur thinks he needs to get rid of fear before he can start.
Never works that way.
Right? There's a big difference.
Yep.
Okay, I'm off topic. So here is what I did. I put a link in the description for a book that I wrote called 10 Ways to Supercharge Your Production or Your Productivity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a big book. It's an ebook. It's not 4 pages. I think it's like 20 pages. I don't remember. but it's 10 ways to supercharge your productivity.
That
By the
sounds
way,
good.
this doesn't even work. This doesn't work just for creative real estate. It works for anything.
Yeah, you're saying productivity.
Yeah.
That's pretty general.
Right. It will help you a lot if you have not done a deal yet, or you want to retire early using creative real estate. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you do an inventory of your time, and the way you would do that is you would write down everything that you do now. Like just buy a calendar book. Don't do it electronically. It doesn't work electronically. Get a calendar book. And what I have done in the past is I have done in one color, like in black, you do everything that you do now. You write everything you do now. And then in blue or red or purple or some other color, write down what you want to do. And it's like a puzzle.
Sure.
Actually, what I would do is I would start off. I remember when I first started teaching real estate, I'd have people take a piece of paper and lay it on its side, draw a line down the middle. On the left side, put all the things that you do now that you need to do, grocery shopping and going to the gym and watching the kids and take care of dad and mom and, I don't know, drive to work, your job, sex with your spouse, food shopping, everything you do, laundry, everything. You put that on the left side. And then on the right side, you put down what you want to do. And then you take those activities and you start plugging them into a calendar, and it's like a puzzle. Like I do it in pencil because you'll erase a lot. And I start plugging in, when can I do this and when can't do that. Yeah. And there was a point in my life I was doing this. Like, for example, Saturday night I would do laundry because that was the only time I had. And there were a few Saturday nights where like I was tired. I'm like, I was wasted because I had already put in 9 million hours. It's like, well, I'll just do it later. Well, there was no room in my calendar to do it later because my calendar was so full that I had to wait 7 more days to do my laundry. So I learned a valuable lesson, like do what you're doing while you're doing it. And you can't make excuses like, I don't want to do it now because I don't feel good. I mean, I woke up this morning. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't feel good today. I got something with my stomach. I'm not quite sure. I'm a little lethargic. You know what I mean? I have no idea why. I'm not sick. I just been pushing, Yeah. And I had to be here at this podcast. And had I not told you that, you wouldn't even know. Nope. Right? So you got to push yourself through those barriers, but it's all time management. It's passion, intention, and time management. Those are the 3 things that are important. And if you want to get a lesson for this, I've been watching lately. I've watched it several times, but a couple great shows on History Channel. One is The Food That Built America. Another one is The Titans of America. Those are the steel guys, and those are a little bit more far-fetched. But The Food That Built America are regular Americans. Like this morning, 5 o'clock this morning, I watched Campbell's Soup. I had no idea that Heinz and Campbell's Soup were rivals. I didn't even know Heinz made soup.
I guess Campbell won.
Back in the day, they did.
Wow.
Yeah. So, anyways, the point is those are good inducers for you to watch to like see what people go through, because it's not easy. You're going to have trouble. There are going to be downfalls. There are going to be problems. There are going to be catastrophes that you have to fix. And those are your education. Those are what you need to go through. They are never going to go away. If you think that you're going to walk onto a creative real estate position and not have problems, then you should go look for another. You should go work for somebody in a bank. There's no trouble there other than sell mortgages, right? There's no trouble there. If you go work for an accountant, there's no trouble there. Go be a paralegal. There's no trouble there. I mean, there is trouble, but it's not your problem, right?
That's right.
You'll be under the man the rest of your life, because if you can't fix that with yourself on being able to confront fear and problems, then you'll stop dreaming, stop fooling yourself. Just go get your job and forget about it, right?
No, that's true. And I've learned the answer from you is something like, don't be afraid of the problem. If you get a problem, just have a little faith that you actually will be able to figure it out. You don't have to know the answer to everything because you cannot, but somebody knows and you can find it. So
Well,
just have a
that's the
little
purpose
patience
of
and
staying
find
in the
it.
groups. That's the purpose of staying in the mastermind groups. Like my Let's Talk Real Estate group is a
Yeah.
perfect one. It's like there's over 100 people in there that help one another.
Mhm.
Facebook groups. That you and I do it. We're part of Jay Connor's
Hey,
group.
Connor. Yeah.
I mean, you are more than I am, but I have groups that I'm involved in.
Mhm.
I'm doing work right now. We just not official. It's going to be official next week. But Sean's my other partner. We just partnered with REI Replay. Whoever thought that was going to happen? REI Replay is the biggest software company in creative real estate,
That's insane. That's
and
crazy.
we just hit it off. And we have a whole new, because of me, and Sean does a lot of it, but a lot of it's my ideas. But because of Sean and I, because of what we've been doing for the last 2 years, it's going to trigger a whole new evolution for real estate. Right. All right. To some, starting in creative real estate is like throwing yourself off a cliff and assembling an airplane before you hit the bottom.
Wow.
You don't need to do this unless you're like me and have a personality that likes this type of a challenge. Me, I throw myself off cliffs all the time. But you know that.
I know that. I'm on the cliff. I'm on the cliff trying to put the airplane together. Wait, Bill. Wait, not yet. I'm putting the plane together. Don't jump so fast.
Oh shit! There he goes. I better go too.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I got 2 parachutes.
You could do like most and leave your safety zone, but do it safely. Okay. Here is how to do it simply, and you are not going to like it because it is too simple. Okay. The absolute best way to get started in real estate, in creative real estate, is to call a seller. So here's the most unspoken, unbelievable, magical trick that nobody has written a book about. And you and I do it all the time.
Really?
Stay in present time. Don't think about the deals behind you and don't think about the deals in front of you until it's time. When it's time for you to pick up a phone and call a seller, do not take what they said recently into account. I'll give you a classic example. On February 24th, 2022, we contacted a seller. His property was on Zillow for $229.
Yep.
He would not take less than $215.
I
contacted him in June of the same year, 2022. Yeah. Okay. And his property went from 229 in Zillow to 199. His price went from 215, I won't take less than 215, to I just wrote a contract with a realtor because I gave it to a realtor for 179. So 215 to 179 is a big difference. Yeah. And then on top of it, you got the 10 or 12 or 15% in closing costs. And on top of that, he's an investor and he has capital gains tax. So 215 probably elevated down to, I bet you, 125.
Really?
By the time he sells for 179, well, 10%, when 10% is 17 grand.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll say it's 20 grand. So now it's 170. So it's 180. Now it's 160.
Yeah.
Right. And then you got capital gains tax on there. All right, maybe 140. 130, 140.
It's a long way from 215.
Right. So I talk to him and I say to him, okay, well, if something happens with your deal, call me. If something happens with my deal, I'm going to call you. I'm definitely going to do owner financing with you because I understand owner financing. I know what you mean. We're going to talk. We're going to put a deal together.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, I spent 55 minutes in the house with him. I went over it 6 times. I have a recording. 6 times. I'm going to send him a memorandum, which you and Sean asked me, why do you send memorandums first? If you have a deal, just send a purchase and sales agreement. No, because I want to make sure that what I said and what he heard matches on a simple one-page document. Here's what we agreed on price. Here's what we agreed on payments. Here's what we agreed on duration. And here's how much money I'm going to put down if we talk about that. It's all on one piece of paper, nice and easy to read. No legalese.
Yep.
If he signs that, then I know he's good. From there, I go to a purchase and sales agreement. All I did was put that step in there as a gradient so that we don't, so I'm trying not to lose deals.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're confused. Because believe it or not, the world has gotten less literate. They don't understand the words all the time, right? So all that said and done is the deal I was just talking to you about. I do all of that, and by Tuesday, I don't have a deal anymore because he sold it for cash.
Yeah.
Right? So that could be upsetting, right?
Sure.
Instead, I'm in conversation with Sean like, this is happening too much. We got to fix it. So between you and Sean and me, we'll come up with something on how we can prevent these deals from going that way.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to get back to the podcast. One thing that I have noticed, and I've said this in the last 3 podcasts, with extensive observation. Now I'm talking about I'm doing live closing calls 3 days a week, and I've even opened it up to, if you're in my Let's Talk Real Estate group. Lately, you can get onto these calls for free. I was just charging my coaching guys and my monthly mastery guys because they were paying me. But recently, I've been just doing it for free because I want people to see how easy it could be. The point is that all you need to do is make one phone call. All you need to do on that phone call is figure out what their price is, if they're willing to take payments, what the payments are, if they're willing to take payments, how long they'll go with the payments. If they don't want to take payments, what's their discount? That's all you got to know. And you could make a deal. So if you want to start a creative real estate business, you don't need any other education other than that. Now, you're on the phone for 2 weeks or a month or 2 months and you're frustrated. Now, at least you know when it's time to get training what you need training on. You know, when you get to this certain point, it always falls apart. Like when you go do the paperwork, it falls apart. Well, then go get trained on the paperwork, not the whole system. You don't need to study for 8 years to do that.
Yeah, it's like you don't know what to do, so you have to know everything.
Right.
You have to double check everything and then triple check everything. When most of it is probably fine. It's just a couple of points here and there, so that you don't lose a deal because you did something not quite right.
Here's the biggest mystery to me on planet Earth. If you don't know how to buy a house and you've never done it before, why are you trying to buy a house? You should be talking to sellers to learn how to talk sellers, not buy a house. This is jumping off the cliff and having to build an airplane before you hit the bottom. If you don't know how to buy a house, which you talk about this all the time, and we since have done it, but we're coming off it again. But I told you to, or you, however it came about, whether it was you or me, when you first started learning how to be on the phones, who did you call first?
Oh, I just called some for sale by owners off the internet just to practice.
Right.
I didn't have any delusions that I was going to buy a house. I just wanted to practice the routine because it's part, as an educator, I teach students different things. I've taught communication courses where you sit and you practice, you practice stuff. And then as a musician, I practice. And in a band, you practice the songs before you go on stage. So before I was in front of like a real seller or a really good deal, I wanted to be ready. So my actual thought was, let me waste a few. You use the term reluctant, right?
Yeah.
Like, just do it to do it. You don't care if you get the house or not. Just practice the routine so you're familiar with it.
So let's bring up this sore subject for a second.
Yes.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
This weekend we went to the movies, and what did you watch?
Oh, me and your wife saw Top Gun along with about 5 million other people in the world.
Okay, so I am protesting this movie because I'm a thick-headed limey, and And I am an avid, over the top fan of Lee Child. I read all his books probably 2 or 3 times.
The Jack Reacher stories, right?
They are the Jack Reacher stories.
Yeah.
So he was cast as Jack Reacher, and it was the worst movie I ever saw because everything that the book says Jack Reacher is supposed to be, Tom Cruise is not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a complete disgrace to the whole series. He marked it, a big black mark, and I don't like him because of it. It's a personal thing. I mean, there's other things. Jumping on the couch 10 years ago was not a good thing either.
Mm-hmm.
Making himself look like a fool. So whatever. So I just protested. So anyways, my point is this: when you went to Top Gun and watched it, would you have paid your ticket price if you didn't know his lines?
Would I pay the price if I didn't know his lines or he didn't know his lines?
So would you pay the ticket price to go watch his movie if you did not know his lines? What to say?
No, I don't think so. No, that's like when the band screws up the song. No.
So who do you think you are that you could talk to a seller without practicing your lines and getting them correctly and not shooting from the lip, aka the hip? If you're shooting from the lip, because too many people will think, well, I'll get in the house, I'll know what to say. And they'll just wing it. Well, hang on, I got news for you.
Yeah.
The only way you're going to ever learn a script or know what to say is to have multiple people say the same thing in different variations. Mm-hmm. Like, how much you're going to give me? What's your offer?
Mm-hmm.
You have to hear it from multiple people to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So you need to practice. So, like you said, you need to waste them. You need to call people up and figure out why they're suspects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now you're talking about the people who go in the houses and wing it, but I think that's the minority. I think the majority don't even go in the house because they keep reading books or something. And I'm saying just practice. The next tiny step is just practice and not care. Call somebody with a house that you do not want to buy. Like if you're afraid to talk to girls, talk to a girl that you don't want to go out on a date with. Talk to her, ask her. When she says no, go, thank God she said no. Yep. At least you got some practice in, and then work up to like the medium girl, and then the girl you really, just take it in stages.
Right. So here's what happens. I put together this reluctant buyer kit, which is exactly to teach you to do that. Now I think it was misnamed, but I tried selling it. I sold very few of them. I even tried giving it away for free, and it's the least product that I've ever distributed, and it's the most valuable. It's the stupidest thing in the world for me. Yeah. By the way, making offers is a lot less formal than most think. So I was on a coaching call with another guy that I help coach on Tuesday, and this girl is on there talking about making offers. She's so afraid of making offers. She's afraid, and it just went on and on and on and droning on. You know what I said to her? I said to her, I'm not going to use her name. Say, hey, Alice, a made-up name, right? Why don't you do me a favor? Tell me what a definition of an offer is to you. What do you think an offer is? Right? So let's role play for about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Pete, how much are you asking for your house?
I'm asking $278.
Okay, how'd you come up with that number?
Some other houses that sold near me, talking to a couple of friends, and I looked at on Zillow, a couple of those sites. So based on my house, square footage, I just think that's a good ballpark.
Why now? Why all of a sudden are you deciding that the 278 is your house, is your number? Why all of a sudden you're selling now? You've owned it for what, 10 years? Why are you selling it now?
I've been thinking about it, like just getting a different property, and just the market's so hot right now. If I'm going to do it, this would be the time.
Okay, so how much were you planning on walking away with?
I think with everything, I think I would have about $120,000.
And what are you going to do with that money?
Get my other property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So if you didn't walk away with 120, what would happen?
Well, I mean, I could get away with less, but the more I can put down, the better, less mortgage and all that. But I can get away with less, but I hope I get that much.
What's less?
Well, it could be 100, it could be 95. you know.
So what if I came in and gave you 75,000? Would that make you cringe?
Yeah, because I'm thinking 120.
Stop the magic. I just gave you an offer.
Hmm.
It wasn't some calculated. How casual was it?
Yeah.
I just gave you an offer. If I give you 75, is it worth it? Would you do it?
Hmm.
By the way, 75 is a really low number. I mean, we're just role playing, but
Yeah.
the point is, first of all, I got off a price, his 278, and I got down to how much he wants in his pocket.
That's right.
I'm negotiating how much he wants in his pocket, which is a huge tactic within itself. But my point is that, so let's just go on another. I don't really have time to do this, but let's go another couple minutes. So what if I give you 75?
I wouldn't take that right now because I just started the process and I think I get better than that.
Okay. How much? So you think you can get at least 100?
Yeah, I mean 95 bare minimum.
Okay. What if I gave you 120,000, but I did it in monthly payments? Would that work? Stop the magic. I just gave him another offer.
Yeah. You know, I think people, what they don't get is that the first thing you say isn't cast in stone. You're having a conversation. It's like, where do you want to go eat? What do you want to have? Like, no, I don't want that. You know, you go back and forth 5, 6 times.
Right.
And you can do that, and you do that all the time.
So
That's what I'm worried about.
Number one, the offer is misunderstood because they think it's some solid, like I got to give a deposit. And again, this is going back to unfamiliarity, right? Because with a realtor, when you give an offer, you have to write a purchase contract. You got to give them a check for $1,000 or earnest deposit, and it's through the realtor, and it's this formal process.
And there it is. You're done. You make that the offer. The offer is
final.
The offer.
And it's final. But what we're doing is we're not doing that. We're just talking to the person and taking their temperature on price, on discount, or payments. Yeah. And if they don't agree to either one of them, and if you're on my live closing calls, you'll notice, okay, I'm done. And I just get off the phone.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it's so important that people should listen to you. 2 reasons. Here's my 2 cents from the rookie here. When you hear Bill talk, it's not like you're talking or listening to a lawyer or a realtor or an accountant. You know, you're talking to a person. And he sounds like a person.
Right.
And you can sound like that. And you can talk to people like a person. But then you'll hear the offers go back and forth. You know, what's the least you would take? Is that the best you can do? I use that to book a dog vacation for my dog. Lady charges $35. And she says, well, how much you thinking is? And we had her for 2 months last year. It was longer, so she gave me better discounts. This week, here's just 2 weeks. It's not long. So I said, well, what's the least you would take? Well, that's the best you can do. Okay, 25. I saved $10 times. I saved $150. Yeah, a day. And my wife, didn't know how to do that. I said, Mary, you've been to the real estate things. Next time, just ask the questions. But, let Pete do it, But, you can use that any place except the supermarket because, there's prices. But I was at Home Depot. They didn't know the price of the 2 flowers I was trying to buy. And she made me wait. The guy had to come from outside, come in, go back, get the other thing. And I'm waiting. Just don't worry, I make it worth your while. She took $5 off. Okay, fine. So I saved $5 for standing there for 3 minutes. I'll take it. Yep. It's just people will talk to you. You can ask them questions and you can change the numbers a little bit.
Exactly. All right. So now let's get down to scary or dangerous.
Okay.
See, failing is scary. Mm-hmm. I get that. Failing's scary. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Wasting 2 years, 5 years, 10 years trying to protect yourself from a bad deal and know everything there is to know,
just in case,
for financial reasons, is dangerous.
Can I add stupid?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The great irony is, as humans, we only learn by doing, reach and withdraw from our mistakes. We have to reach, make a mistake, withdraw. Oh, I won't do it that way again, and then do it again.
Yeah, it's called learn from your mistakes. It's fine. Right. I don't propose making too many mistakes, but don't worry about it.
Wasting your life trying to prevent fear is the most dangerous thing we can do. Learning to use that fear, learning lessons from it, is the only way to by the way, get rid of fear.
Mm.
So the only way that you can make fear disperse in your head, in other words, go away and make it so it's not fearful. So in other words, you trip and fall down the stairs, and now you're afraid of stairs.
Mm.
The only way you could turn that fear of stairs away or make it so you're not fearful of it is to turn it into a lesson.
Yeah.
So now what happens is when you see stairs, I'm like, oh, I better not do that again. And now you're like, oh, okay, now I can climb up the stairs because now I know not to do that again.
Right. That's called get back on the horse. Of course, you want to figure out what you shouldn't have done or what you could have done or what you would do next time. So you just do it better. That's the learning process.
Right. So now you may think what is more dangerous than you taking your first step onto the high wire of creative real estate and doing it without a net. You're going to be like, no, I want to do this so I learned my mistake. I want to see if it happens again.
Mm.
It changes the whole perspective of looking at it as fearful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. We have spent endless hours showing you, meaning Pete and I showing you and talking about how safe it is. And you're still fighting with yourself. You're still coming up with reasons and excuses not to do it. You're letting life get in the way of your passion. Well, maybe real estate's not your passion. That's why it's getting in the way.
Mm.
Right? I mean,
what's your plan otherwise? See, I'm more afraid not to do it than to do it.
Yeah, that's my point.
Right? I'm like, I look at my life and go, crap, if I don't do this, I'm screwed. So I've had some successes. I'm just looking for the next few, you know?
Look how you've lived your last 2 years compared to your last 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a massive difference.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's my evaluation, but I think
it is.
You know?
It is. And it wasn't even anything like huge, but for me, it was a big difference.
Yeah.
I took the summer off, not work, and I pulled it off and went away.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't have done that at all a few years ago. So
I mean, we teach you just buy at 80 cents at $1 or less if you're worried. The market never tends to change more than 20%. I mean, some markets like Las Vegas and Florida, but those are freaks. The average is 20%. So if you're worried about the market going down, the market has excuse me, the market is up 20% right now, 25%. So just buy it at 20% discount or 25% discount. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
You're in control.
Yeah.
Hell.
But if you ever get a little upside down, all you do is wait a little longer.
Yeah.
You just stretch things out. What if they don't let me? They have to let you because that's what's going to work.
What choice do they have?
Yeah.
Do lease options at first. There's no legal ramifications to ducking out of a lease option.
Now that's almost like being a realtor. I'll sell your house, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? That's closest thing to being a realtor.
Practice talking to sellers before you buy, and you may run into a deal. Don't try to buy a house. Just practice talking to sellers.
Oh, after I talked, I think I talked to 3 people. One said, "You want to see the house?" And I don't know if I was buying it up. But I was like, "Somebody's gonna let me see the house," and you're surprised. What'd you do? And you liked the house. We didn't buy it, of course, because you have to see more than one. But I was off and running. Like, I'm in a house. 4 weeks in.
So check this out.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to do a podcast on this next week, but I'm not sure. This other coaching group that I'm in, and I'm helping this other guy out. There's a guy in there, and he's just a whiny baby.
Okay.
He you know, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just push myself, and I just can't this, and I just can't that. Right?
Mm.
So I said to him, what you need is a partner.
Mm.
So this was a month ago. Miraculously enough, 3 of them in the group have a meeting every morning at 8 o'clock to pep talk one another.
And hold each other accountable too.
All of a sudden, they're all making their calls, and all of a sudden they're bringing deals to the call and start talking about deals. Okay, so I think I'm going to talk about that next week. How you can do that. What's going on over there, Peter?
Oh, I'm dropping my coffee cup, but it's empty. It's okay. I'm all right.
Now think of this. Think of this. End off here. Someone who think of this. This is a new little saying I have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone. So normally I say where attention goes, energies flow, results show.
Right.
right? Which, by the way, I don't know where I got that from, and I realized that it was from T. Eckert. I got that saying from years ago on How to Be a Millionaire. T. Eckert. I think that's where I got it from. I just recently remembered that. I don't know why, but
good.
Anyways, someone. So listen to this. Someone who creates something purely out of passion is called a hobbyist.
Yeah.
Someone who creates something out of passion that solves problems, they're called a tinkerer.
Okay.
Someone who creates something out of passion that also solves problems, but makes money and makes sure to share it is called an entrepreneur.
Okay. Never heard any of those.
So I strongly advise you go into the description of this podcast and click my link and get my book, my new book, that's called 10 Ways to Supercharge Your Production or Your Productivity. So you can start working on an early retirement with money now, money monthly, and money later. So in final, because we're done, all I have to say is if I had my way with every listener right now, and there's thousands of them, thousands of you listening to me right now, and Peter, here's what I would do. If I could wave a magic wand over each one of your thoughts, here's what I would do. I would have you daydream on what would happen in your life if you had money now, money monthly, and money later. In fact, I'm going to divert for a second. I wrote a document. Let me pull it up. I wrote a document the other day. It's a new webinar that I'm writing. And let me explain these. I'm going to just read these. I'm not going to explain them, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Money now means you can pay those ugly debts. Get a new car, go on vacation, whatever your heart desires. The point is, you choose what to do with these chunks of dough. Money monthly means you can fire your boss. The trick is, if you need $4,000 per month to live, then get $6,000 a month in positive income from your properties. Mm-hmm. So there is a $2,000 per month cushion to cope with weirdness, like non-payers, broken houses, or perhaps building a reserve. Mm-hmm. Think about this. If you had 12 properties, each earning $500 per month cash flow, which is low for us, you would earn $6,000 a month. Question now is, how long before you can get 12 properties? That would be freedom, correct?
Yeah.
Money later is your retire early plan. Once you see how you can start stacking up $30,000 to $100,000 in equity or your profits in each deal, it doesn't take long, less than 6 years, very often, to live comfortable in your early retirement years. So if I had any choice at all with anybody dreaming, I would dream of money now, money monthly, money later, getting the chunks of dough so you can pay off shit, your debt, all that stuff, having money monthly so you can have passive income and you could actually pay your bills monthly without having to work more than about 10 hours a month, and money later for retirement funds or chunks of dough. I mean, I'm doing that right now. That's what I've been doing for an entire year. I keep moving my portfolio around and just keep making my all I'm worried about is, well, last year I made the most amount of money ever, and it's 6 months later and I'm broke. So my wife asked me, how could that be? I'm like, well, because I took the money and I put it in equity. And Peter, you could attest to this, and I want to end off, so I want to go on and on and on. Mm-hmm. But when you get the money, I learned this. When you get the money, you spend it. Mm-hmm. Equity you can't spend, but you can keep collecting on it.
Yeah, you put the money into the properties, so you don't have a lot of loan on the properties. It's very small. And it's equity. And if you ever needed the money, sell it, and there's your money. But it's sitting someplace. See, to me, that's better.
No. Stop the minute. If I ever need the money, I just refinance and get a credit line. I don't have to sell it.
Oh, yeah, of course. There's all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
But it's like, try to do that with your stock that crashed.
Right. Or try to do that with your savings account when you got $100,000 in there, and all of a sudden now it's down to $9,000. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, because you'll spend it. So what I did through my experience is I just kept chunking down my mortgages. So what I did is I have half the amount of properties making me the same amount of money because I paid down the debt. I'm not over leveraged. I'm only about 40% leveraged in my portfolio right now. Right. And I make the same amount of money with less work, and I could pick and choose my days when I want to work.
Yeah.
So if you should daydream about anything, it should be money now, money monthly, money later, creative, lease option deals. Lease option deals do that. Only lease option deals do that. No other deal does that. No other deals. Rent to own to your buyer is the only thing to do that. And if you want to make a lot of money, get more people to pay you. So get off your ass. Stop telling yourself you're scared or it's dangerous, because it's not. And go make a phone call and find that one person. That one person. I have a coaching client in Alaska that's got 2 properties or 3 properties, and he makes more than he needs to make. And he's like, what, 30 years old or 35 years old, 40 years old? He doesn't work. He lives in Alaska in some bungalow somewhere and just has it made because he's got 2 or 3 properties, and he just does what he wants. He comes and goes.
He's even. Now he makes a few more moves and he's ahead of the game, and then ahead.
Right. So anyways, that's my parting words. So stop telling yourself it's scary or dangerous. It's not real. Creative real estate is not dangerous because of the paperwork we use. The most dangerous part of it is you not doing it and getting those 12 properties, making $500 a month. Oh, by the way, like I said, 12 properties, 2 a year, in 6 years, you're done. If you did, and oh yeah, by the way, if you did that, because I go on further in this webinar, I go on further by saying that's a lie, by the way, doing 2 a year. Because what happens is once you do 1 or 2, you get better and better, and you start doing more and more.
Sure.
And it cuts down to 6 years because you did one deal, you got used to it. Then you do another deal, you got used to it. Then you do another one. By the time you get to 3 and 4, it's like only a couple years later.
Yeah.
Because you got better and better. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed our show. Make sure you go subscribe to wherever you're listening to us or watching us. You should check out my YouTube channel because I've been putting up a lot of videos there, and it's new content. I make videos 2 or 3 times a week, and I upload them every day almost. So you should go check them out. Also, make sure that you leave us a review. Make sure if you have questions, you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right-hand side is a support ticket. I answer all the support tickets myself. And go grab my new book, 10 ways to be more productive, or whatever I said before. Okay? Over and out. Have a good week. Thanks for being here, and thank you for all the support.